Hey, hey, welcome to first ever edition of Hot Dish Roundtable. All right, on this edition of the podcast, we're going to dive into a lot of stuff. We're going to go through Vikings, Twins, Wolves, Wild, not in that order. All right, let's dive in. We're going to start with the Vikings. We have to start with the news of the offseason that everyone anticipated, everyone expected. Ed Donatell.
Get him out of here.
He gone. He's out.
Thank
All right.
God. It is well due. I think every Viking fan around had a sigh of relief collectively as he got fired, but now we gotta go find a new D coordinator. And we've been interviewing a few people. Do you guys have any favorites yet?
We have Mike Pedden. He's in-house, assistant head coach of the Vikings. Sean Desai from the Seahawks, and Ryan Nielsen from the Saints. So I would say going over the three of them, I like the idea of keeping it in-house. Mike Pedden's already familiar with the team, with how they run the defense. I mean, obviously there needs to be some changes there. And then as far as the only other one I feel like they might be serious about in that group would be Ryan Nielsen from the Saints. I don't know.
And he was a co-defensive coordinator.
He was a
right?
co-defensive coordinator for the Saints. That's what his job title was. He was a co-defensive coordinator for the Saints. They were a good defense. Like, the Saints had troubles this season, but it wasn't really their defense. It was more their offense not being able to score. Their defense was good. They had not a great record this year, but their defense ranked in the top 10. So the problem with Sean Desai is he is an assistant. He's actually an associate head coach. I don't even know what that means as far as associate.
Is that below an assistant?
I
don't know.
I would say probably.
And then he was a defensive assistant to the Seahawks, but their defense was not very good.
Yeah, it's been kind of iffy.
Yeah, their defense was ranked pretty high too, and they gave up almost on average as much yards per game as the Vikings. So I don't know how serious they are about that candidate. I would say, if I had to pick one of those, I would say either keep it in house, go with Mike Pedden, or
the Saints.
The Saints
co-defensive
coordinator. Yeah. So
and I think maybe the fourth one I was thinking of might have been Brian Flores. Is he with Pittsburgh right now? He used to be.
Yeah, he's with Pittsburgh. He's my pick for our defensive coordinator. I just loved what he did in Miami. Ran a lot of zero type blitz schemes and just generated a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And I feel like that was one of our defense's weakest points with Donatell. He only wanted to send 4, and those 4 weren't getting the pressure we needed. So I think a blitz-minded coach would be very beneficial for our defense.
Yep. And
so we haven't interviewed him yet, though.
No, we haven't actually.
He's on there. He's a candidate.
He's a candidate, yeah.
But we've requested
an interview.
Yeah, so he's on the list.
Yeah, so they'll probably get an interview, I would guess, unless he turns it down. But are you worried about staying in-house with Mike Pedden because of the fact that he was a part of a defense? He had to still have had a little bit of a role in what the defense did this year, whether Ed Donatell was in charge or not, and they were 31st. I mean, is that a worrisome thing to stay in-house because of the fact that he was here when they were so bad?
A little bit. It definitely plays into it because for me, I think we need just a full, complete 180, just do it the opposite way. Whatever you're doing, let's just switch it up. Mm-hmm. Let's get something fresh, get something new. And I feel like going outside of our coaching staff is probably the answer to that. Who knows? Maybe the guy has ideas and wants to do things differently, but
I think, him being on the team all season, they're always talking, they're always having meetings. He's the assistant head coach, so he has O'Connell's ear. O'Connell knows the scheme they're running. He knows what Donatell was trying to run. He approved it, so. Yeah, I think the answer would be to go out of house. Sorry, Mike. Don't. Yeah. If you listen to this,
well,
don't.
He'll still be the assistant head coach. Yeah. I don't think
you
take that
assistant
role
head coach.
Yeah,
he's not going to leave.
But you don't necessarily put him into that defensive coordinator role. But if they do, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, they do what you said. Yeah. And those are just some of the candidates. Those are just some of the people they're interviewing. There's going to be more, I guarantee. Yeah. And the Vikings are very open with telling everyone who they're interviewing, which is kind of new. I feel like they haven't seen that a lot with some teams, and it's nice to see. But the defense themselves had a lot of players this year who had the caliber to not be a 31st ranked defense, and yet we were. So you got to make a change. Is there any changes in the actual players that you foresee coming up on the defensive side?
Well, I mean, there's going to be changes on the defense in regards to just getting rid of players due to various reasons, like to free agency and or salary cap. So there will be changes. But I think a lot of the players who have played well in seasons past too, or players who had potential and people had a lot of thought had potential, didn't play as well this season. So that was a problem as well. So, and who knows if that was due to the scheme they were running under Ed Donatel or, I mean, yeah.
It's clearly a part of it, but what do you think some of the biggest needs are on the defensive side?
I think our defensive backs need a lot of help. Our whole secondary was just very weak. We were getting slaughtered in the passing game. And our linebacking core is another concern of mine. I feel like our defensive line is good. I feel like we got some great players on there. We just need to change the scheme around more for that. But, yeah, I think our linebackers and secondary is definitely where we need to focus our funds.
I think this offseason, I think the biggest need, what we need is like bulking up our secondary. So, and like we were talking, like due to, salary cap and everything, there's probably going to be trades, cuts, whatever, with with a lot of those key defensive players we have now, just to save money. But, right now we have Dantzler, Booth,
Shelley,
Evans, and then Shelley, who was playing really good. So I think he's a free agent this year, or he's going to be he's going into free agency this offseason. So now, so they'll probably bring him back, I'm assuming. I think he's someone that they shouldn't let go. So, and I think they could probably get him for like a decent contract. But he'll probably go. I'm assuming he'll obviously test the free agency market and see if he can get money somewhere else. But I think actually I have a note here. Shelley was so he was put in when we got him from off free agency because the Bears waived him. We put him in week 15, and then by the end of the season he was ranked in the top. I think he was ranked in the top 8.
A little Shelley Island is.
Pro Football Focus had him ranked as the 8th best cornerback with 10 pass breakups and 1 interception. Yeah. So he's small, but he's quick, and he's like a scrappy player, and I think that's why the Bears ultimately didn't play him as much or waived him. But
I feel like
their loss is our gain. We should keep Duke Shelley.
Absolutely, I think he fits into that slot cornerback role nicely, and with him, Pat Pete, and then if we can just find one more guy to like kind of be that like shadow a stud receiver kind of guy, just a true shutdown corner, I feel like that helps a lot. And you
don't think we have that with Dantzler, Andrew Booth, or Caleb Evans?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But
there's other free agent, like, okay, so we can jump ahead a little bit since we're talking about the secondary. There's other free agent cornerbacks that we could potentially trade for that are, or we could potentially offer contracts to. So there's like, who do we have for cornerbacks?
Let's just go get Eli Apple one way or another.
No, thank you.
Oh, there's Byron Murphy from Arizona.
He's kind of the
Jonathan. He's like
top.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean we could get him,
Like,
but we also have to save money this offseason. So
right.
or this
there's
next
not
season.
a ton of star power when it comes to defensive backs this season.
Jonathan
In free
Jones,
agency.
Cam Sutton, Marcus Peters. There's a bunch of free
That
agent
kind of middle-
cornerbacks that are.
Not really stars, not really Pro Bowl caliber, but very serviceable guys out there. And I think if we can just make a move for one of those guys, take a shot early on a cornerback in the draft, and then maybe looking at safety. I think Harrison Smith he's been one of those guys kind of talked about possibly
Leaving.
getting the boot or leaving, however you want to put it. And
I was being nice.
Yeah.
But you can say getting the boot,
yeah. Mainly due to salary cap, probably.
Right. 100%. That's the driving force of it, and his age and whatnot. So hopefully there's something. I haven't looked at the safety free agency list, but hopefully we address it through free agency or draft somehow.
I think they're gonna. I think with like what you said, there's a bunch of serviceable guys out there that they can get from free agency. So I think when it comes to the draft, I feel like everyone thinks they're going to go for a receiver to like have someone to complement JJ. And again, because of the salary cap, like Thielen could be going. You know, there's going to be an open wide receiver spot probably. So
let's talk about the salary cap for a little bit. Where are we at right now? I think we're over, right?
It's over by about 24 million. Yeah.
Okay.
And also with that, we have a lot of. I mean, there's 25. We have 25 free agents this offseason now that we have to like pick and choose from. So
we're going to see a completely different team than what we saw last year, both on the offense and the defense.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing the window of that late 2010s Vikings team kind of starting to see its day. I think we're going to see a lot of pieces move in the next couple months.
Yeah, which is a bummer because we had a really good team. Like it's going to be.
It is a bummer, but what excites me about it is like now we're building KLC's team. Right. Like he came in and he was like, "Here's your team. Good luck. You can grab a couple more guys." Yeah. Same with the new GM, everything. Like they're building their team.
Yeah. It's like when someone asks you to join their fantasy baseball league, like keeper league, or dynasty league. When you're like, "Oh, this is the team I have to take over." Like
exactly. Christian Yelich is one of my keepers. Oh god.
Yeah, and it's not like 5 years ago.
Well, okay. So if you want to talk about the salary cap.
Yes.
So
where are we at in the salary cap?
We're 24 million over.
What kind of moves do we project they need to make? Let's talk about cuts first, and then we can consider who we should add and extend or anything like that. Let's talk about just cuts in the salary cap.
Well, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Thielen.
Yep.
Cut.
Is
what you're saying. Trade or cut?
I mean, preferably trade so we can get something back.
Do you think it's even a
thing? I think if we just straight cut him, we have to take some of his
we
take some of their salary.
If we trade
over $6 million of dead cap.
The trade, whoever's getting them has to pay their contract. So trade is ideal.
Yeah. But that would save $6 million. There are some actually like way bigger ones too that we'll talk about. But you go next. Yeah.
Thielen's our second highest contract on the books right now, and closely behind him is Harrison Smith. And two guys who've been a part of this Vikings organization for quite a while and two fan favorite guys, but when you got two guys creeping into their mid-30s and they're taking up $40 million of your salary cap, that's problematic. You just can't have that.
And Harrison Smith is good. And
they're both great
but he's not
players.
Worth, I don't think, $19 million or
not
something.
Anymore. No.
Is it a possibility with guys like Harrison Smith and Adam Thielen, who have been staples in this organization for so long, that we could talk them into a restructure of some sort and 100%. Push some of the cap back and pay some bonus out?
Totally a possibility.
Do you project that could happen? Would they want to do that? Would you want them to do that?
Well, the thing with Harrison Smith is if we trade him, it doesn't make any difference if we were to cut him.
We don't have dead cap, you're saying?
There is, but it's this. I think like how it works. Somehow it worked out the same as a trade would be the same as if we just cut him. Gotcha. Like if we needed to just cut someone, we could cut him.
Right, but. I mean, ideally, you'd like to get
obviously
a fifth-round draft pick or something back for him, but...
Yeah. So if you look at a restructure, is that a possibility with these guys? And how would that...
It's definitely a possibility. I think it would be... It's more on how bad do the players want to stay in Minnesota.
Sure.
I think that's more what it's going to come down to, because I think, obviously, the Vikings are going to be more than open to restructuring, but... if the players are willing to take less money.
Yeah, and we've already seen Adam Thielen's wife throw out there that like, hey, this might be it. That might be done. I don't know if that was a economic decision or an emotional decision to post that, but there was clearly there had to have been some thought behind Adam Thielen's wife posting that.
Yeah.
That had to have been coming from his agent or something that they said, hey, this is what we're going to do when the season ends, one way or another.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Who knows what comes of it.
So I hope Adam Thielen sticks around. Obviously, but I don't want to have to pay him $13.5 million, so I hope we can restructure. Okay, so we have Adam Thielen, we got Harrison Smith. Who else are we looking at? Zadarius?
Eric Kendricks is out.
Kendricks is out?
He's out.
No doubt.
He has the smallest dead cap. It's like $1 million, and if we'd save almost $10 million, almost halfway there.
Yeah.
And he played terrible this year. Like he wasn't very good.
I was so frustrated watching that final game of the season, watching Eric Kendricks against the Giants.
He had a sack.
He couldn't catch anyone.
No, he looked
like he was chasing.
He had a sack, but that was only his second sack of the season. He only had one sack in the regular season. He did not play well. He doesn't really fit in like Kevin O'Connell's defensive vision scheme. So yeah,
with age you get slower. Yeah. I mean, he looked like he was running with boots out there and not cleats. Like
I think he's out. So we can kind of that's $10 million right there.
Yeah, and
that's a no doubter for me.
with the smallest like dead cap too.
Well,
it's like literally $1 million.
But it's time.
And then I guess the only other person really talked about is Kirk, I guess. I mean,
Well, there's Cook, there's
Cook,
Darius Smith.
Cook.
Like,
I forgot about
yeah.
Cook. Yeah, Dalvin, I mean, with the free agent running back class that's out there right now, you got guys like Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison's going out there. I think there's so many other options we could go and save a lot of money on a position that I just don't think you need a star player at in the NFL. There's just so many talented guys, and I don't know. I think we can save $10 million, rock with an Alexander Madison, maybe get like a receiving back to go with him, and like run more of a committee. And again, love Dalvin Cook. He's an absolute blast to watch play. He's so electric. But when we're talking about building for a future and building a successful football team, I think these are the conversations that have to be had.
And with Ty Chandler sitting there too, I don't think C.J. Ham probably comes back, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go get a running back that can catch even better than Dalvin Cook could and can make plays beyond just running up the middle and moving and juking. Like guys like Saquon Barkley. I don't know if we could actually get him. I don't think we're going to be able to fit him in the cap this year.
Definitely not. He's going to be a 15 to $20 million guy, and we're already so far over the cap limit.
But I think you can turn Madison into somebody like that can make a lot of those catches and can be a PPR, even fantasy type guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I think unless they have plans for CJ Ham, he's gone too this offseason because they're not going to pay him like whatever it is, like $3 million. He just plays like special teams.
It's just fullback's a dead position.
And you got a rookie contract with Ty Chandler. They're going to put him into the CJ Ham role, the Alexander Madison role. That just seems like it's going to happen.
I love him. He's just
they might have plans for him. Who knows? But I don't. If they don't, though, he's gone for sure. So that's another cut we'll make, or trade.
And you mentioned Za'Darius as well. Like, how much we save?
He's gonna make $16 million next season, which is probably not worth having.
I'd be surprised if he gets moved.
He was so great.
Cap savings $13 million.
He had a great season. We just got him last off season. Like I don't think he's going anywhere.
He was amazing. It felt like the first 6-7 games. Then I think it was the Bills game that he got injured.
He got injured, and they said that after the Bills game, like his production went down. Like
definitely went down around that time. So.
But you had a full off season to get healthy, so who knows?
He'll be playing somewhere, but I don't think he's going to be in Minnesota probably, in my mind.
Za'Darius Smith?
Yeah.
Oh. You don't think he's going to be playing?
I don't think so.
I think he's staying. I don't think.
You think he'll stay?
You think he's staying? You think he's going?
We'll find out.
I'm not taking sides.
I don't know. They're going to make a lot of moves. So
whatever I say, the opposite's going to happen.
Do you think Dalvin Cook could be traded rather than be cut or anything? Do you think? Can you get something beyond a 5th, 6th round pick for a guy like Dalvin Cook?
I feel like that depends on the situation you're trading him into. If you're trading to a team that's just going to take him and take his cap or something, or if you're trading him to a contender, I think that changes kind of the package we're going to receive.
Yeah. You brought up Trey Lance and that rumor about that trade, and what was that trade again? Yeah,
so I saw that he's projected to be. They're requesting a 3rd rounder for him. And I don't think the 49ers have came out and said anything. I think we won't see anything until their season ends. But if we're talking about a 3rd round pick for a guy like Trey Lance to come sit under Kirk for a year or two and just, be a great backup option, but also a potential future option, I think that's well worth a 3rd round pick in my opinion.
I think I think that's ridiculous. I don't know. I mean,
Minnesota boy.
That seems like nothing for Trey Lance.
Straight out of
3rd round pick,
Minnesota, bring him home. I think all the fans would rally behind it.
Well, I mean, even it was preseason, the 49ers came and played here, and Trey Lance started, and that game there was a lot of people at the game. I had a lot of friends go to that game that just know Trey Lance from high school, things like that. I didn't go to Marshall, but I know people who did, and I mean, he's a big deal here.
I would be up for that trade. I don't think they're going to get anything better in the 3rd round, better than Trey Lance.
No,
so
I agree.
So, all right, talking about quarterback, then we got to talk about Kirk Cousins. I mean, he had his historic year. He had his best year ever. He was a different player than what we've seen in the past. Take away that final play of the season. He had a great season, like it or not. He's on contract through the rest of the season, I believe. Do you extend him? He's going to be asking for an extension. After a year like this, there's no doubt that they walk into that office, probably already there, talking extension with him. Would you want to see him extended through 2024? Do you take that extra another year on him, or do you just ride out what you got and deal with it later?
See, if we're talking about like a full extension like his previous contract, like 3 or 4 years, I'm out. I don't want that. He's in his mid-30s. He's getting older. That age is something you definitely have to keep an eye on. But we're also seeing him really come into his own and become the quarterback that I think a lot of people saw in him. You know, part of that, I think KOC bringing out that confidence and whatnot. But
JJ.
And JJ, that's a huge part too. But I think it just depends on if we do make a move for Lance. I think that's the biggest factor. If we are going to go for Lance, I say let's ride out this year, see where we're at the end of the year. But if we don't get him, yeah, I'm fine with seeing another year of Kirk. I think what we saw this season was enough to convince me.
Yeah. And if we don't go get Trey Lance, obviously Nick Mullins is no longer around. We kind of don't really have a backup QB at the moment. What are some other options that you think we could do as backup or a replacement for Kirk after this next season?
Zach Wilson.
Yeah? I don't know. So there's got to be somebody. It's not a draft thing, right? I don't think we're going to go get a QB in the first round this year.
No, definitely not. If we're looking at a backup quarterback, we're talking rounds 5 to 7.
Yeah.
I think people have been like, this year was a good year with Kirk, and I honestly, the last play means nothing to me. I think he had a great season. I don't blame him for that loss at all, but I blame the defense and Donatel.
And the offensive line struggle. There was a lot.
There's a lot, but I think people have been bummed out on Kirk for so long. Like this year was an isolated year. You know, like every year people were like, Kirk, he's not a playmaker. He's not a playmaker. And this year was different. It was awesome to see him play as well as he did. I think if we have him next year, I hope it's the same. It's going to be. It all depends on the weapons he has around him, too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with who they cut or who they trade for, salary cap space. But
and I think whether they extend him or not too is going to depend on what weapons they end up deciding to keep. Like you're looking at, you got to extend JJ.
I think they obviously, so, and TJ, and I think they need to start looking for another quarterback though, pretty quick.
Yeah, in the next few years for sure, whether you extend him or not. I can't imagine that Kirk's getting 3-4 year deal with the Vikings. I think if they did that, the whole fan base would just be like, now we're down on Kirk. I'll take a year, maybe 2. Well, that's about the end of the line.
And it's just such a hard situation because you have, the public perception of a quarterback's age and, kind of on that downward progression as they hit their 30s and get older. But, Kirk's on an upward trajectory, and he's, just getting into the prime of his career, it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Which
is
this late in his career.
Right. It just makes for a really difficult situation for a front office to deal with. How do you evaluate the age and the possibility of regression versus the progression we have seen the past year? I think it makes it really difficult.
Kirk seems like a great guy to have on a team when you're doing a competitive rebuild. You want to stay competitive, but you're also rebuilding. But the problem is he costs so much. And with a guy that costs that much, if you had a guy on a contract that's closer to a rookie contract or anything like that, it opens up so many more doors to be able to offer JJ right away, unquestionably, 6 years, $200 million or more.
Right. No, those 4 or 5 years on a rookie quarterback deal that's the best time to win a Super Bowl. So if we can finagle away into Trey Lance, that puts us in a great position to. That's probably a $26 million cap difference in Lance versus Cousins. And
that's huge.
That lets us go get new guys on defense and free agency and opens up a whole new world of doors. So. Yeah, it's paying a quarterback $36 million is tough.
Yeah,
it definitely puts you in a bind.
All right, so talking other extensions, JJ, how long do you want to see his extension for? Do you think there's any possibility that we don't extend him and he leaves and goes elsewhere? And also TJ. We got to talk about all the J's. TJ, KJ, JJ. We got a lot of J's, but let's start with Jefferson. What do you want to see? Do you want to see him locked up for 6, 7, or more years? Are you worried about the cap later on? That can be something that can really hold a team back if maybe he's not as good as we think. You never know.
Yeah.
It's worrisome whenever you give someone that much cap.
Right. And I feel like he's that type of player that demands a Tyreek Hill level contract. We are going to have to break the bank to pay him. And honestly, I think he's worth it. He's just that
I think everyone wants to see that too.
Yeah,
like.
right. And I think I heard him say that he'll go wherever he's wanted. And the Vikings fans obviously love him. Like, we were going around at the tailgate asking everyone who their favorite player was, and almost everyone says Jefferson, and he is loved here. So I think there's a good chance we do see him stay. I don't think he's going anywhere, and I'm more than willing to give him his bag. He's earned it.
Yeah, for sure. And TJ as well? You feel like he's earned it? He earned that extension?
Yeah.
I mean,
because I think he has 1 year left, right? Or next season.
Yeah,
and then we'll have to.
It's a slightly more expensive deal. It's like his 5th year option or something.
Yeah,
can't remember.
Yeah. But I think we need to keep him as well because he's.
Yeah. All right. So let's assume we keep those. That we still have Kirk next year. We kind of have the team that we've discussed that we think that they're going to have. What are your expectations for next season? Do you want to see another 13? Obviously, we want to see another 13-win season. But what do you expect? Do you expect them to win the division, but not necessarily win 13 games this time? Do you expect a Super Bowl? Because I know the next season, going into 2024, you're going to have even way more cap space. You're going to have a lot of options. That's when Kirk could be up. Like, maybe that's the year that they target and go for a competitive rebuild this year. What are you thinking? Where are you feeling your expectations are at for
I think
2023?
A lot of it has to do with what defensive moves we're going to make here. Because I don't think anyone's questioning our offense. I think it's a top 10, arguably top 5 offense in the NFL. It's, can the defense figure it out? That's the big question. And I think if they can, I don't see any reason why we can't win the division again, get double-digit wins. You know, I think it's totally in the realm of possibilities to see another season like this. Hopefully it ends better in the playoffs, but I see no reason for regression yet.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna lose any real, even if we lose Cook or something, right, to salary cap or whatever. I don't think we're gonna lose that much of the offense that it's going to affect it as much as we need to make defensive moves, and depending on what we do, I agree with you 100%. Depending on what we do with the defense will be how far into the playoffs we go next season.
And that's, we didn't even hardly talk about the offensive line, Bradbury being replaced. There's a lot of different Cleveland, who knows where Cleveland's going to be, but there's going to be so many moves. I can't wait to dive in. This whole offseason, we're going to be making all kinds of podcasts, I feel like, because it's going to be every other week there's going to be a move. And, salary caps at different points in June, and the draft coming up here not too soon, not too far away, but it's going to be exciting. I'm excited.
A lot of things to look forward to.
Yep. Is there anything else you want to add on the Vikings? Otherwise, we should get Giss in here. We can talk Wild for a little bit. Maybe come back to the Wolves too and talk Twins.
I feel like we kind of touched it all.
All right, Josh. We'll go. You go get Giss. Get out of here.
Look like Donatello and scram.
Well, the Viking season's been fun. We got a lot of future stuff to talk about, but now we've replaced Josh with Eric.
Ta-da! I think you guys have a serious downgrade going on right here. These are big shoes to fill. But
well,
no,
you're the Wild expert, so we're glad that you're here because we got to talk Wild. there's a lot of big stuff coming. The Wild have had a crazy up and down year. They started pretty slow. Now they're getting better. Very roller coaster. We've been here. We've been in Minnesota sports long enough to understand the roller coaster. Nothing new.
Yeah.
But what are kind of the expectations that you felt like going into this season we should have had, and where we're kind of on the trajectory of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we can all agree it's a streaky hockey team. They started out on a bad streak when they broke onto the scene for this season. They got on some really big rolls. Currently, they were on a huge winning roll, and then it slid into a 3-game losing streak. And what team is showing up? What consistency can you bring to the table? Where do players fit? What's the free agent picture look like? Who needs to step it up? It's hockey, right? But it's also nerve-wracking, and we're coming off a Vikings kind of bummer, and you're going like, oh, the Wild were so good, and the Wild were on their way, and they've come home, and they're out of the playoffs picture right now, and it's the same old Minnesota sports fan thing.
Yep. Do you feel confident they can get back in the playoff picture? They're right on the borderline. They're going in and out every day. How do you feel? Are they going to actually be able to win the conference and actually take it, or are they going to maybe fall into a wild card spot? What's the expectation?
Well, a week or two ago, I think they were trending there for sure. Candidly, I think they're a team that is going to have to, like I say, keep saying fish and cut bait, but decide where they're going. We've talked a lot on Hot Dish Sports, especially on the Wild, about this is a team that's been able to manage its it's losing streaks. By that, I mean they don't lose 3, 4, 5 in a row. They lose a couple, win a couple, lose one, win one. Now they're out of a playoff picture. Now they're on a losing streak. They're playing a big home stretch now. We'll see what happens. It's where those pieces fit. I have every confidence in the world, namely because their goaltending is good right now. I mean, Fleury and Gus the Bus have done wonderful things.
Far exceeded my expectations to start the year.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm not looking for like Jesper Wallstedt to get a call up from the Iowa Wild. Goaltending is not their problem. They have winning goaltending. It's can they score?
Yeah.
Can they score 5-on-5? Can they quit taking dumb penalties at bad opportune
we've seen a lot of
times? I mean, they're playing quality opponents. When you're doing that in February, you're in and out of the playoffs. So sustaining and minimizing these losing streaks and supplementing them with victories, and I think they're on track. Now, at the end of this month, are we going to go like, wait a minute, they never really snapped out of it? And by March, you're either in or you're out, basically. I mean, unless it's 1-2 points, which sometimes it is and has been. But I think the trend is still there. But I think time is now really of essence, if that answers the question.
Yeah, and the Avalanche, they had a slow start. They've been getting better. I mean, are they coming into the year? I thought they were going to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel like they're going to continue to trend upward? Or are they a team that?
Well, they're getting healthier, right?
Yeah.
McKinnon is back at full strength. Now they're the team that's winning 6 and 7 in a row, and all of a sudden, right past Minnesota, right past Nashville, and now they're the team that the Wild were on this path 2-3 weeks ago. So, no, they're legitimate, for sure legitimate. I think the Blues and the Blackhawks are charting their course for next season, maybe in the running for the Connor Bedard number 1 draft pick sweepstakes. But, Wild are on the bubble. Colorado, you know what's coming, especially when they get healthy. And Winnipeg's not going away. I'm surprised Winnipeg is where they're at right now based on the projections coming into the season. They have been on this trend. You want to be on this trend. You don't want to be on this trend in February, and you surely better not be on that trend.
Yeah. And speaking of, you mentioned Connor Bedard. Do you know a lot about him? You know, I mean, he's...
I was glued to the World Junior Hockey television set. And from everything I hear, he's totally legitimate. People want to knock his size. They want to knock his skating skills. But the kid has a knack for the net. And if you looked at his numbers in the World Juniors and then his return to the Western Hockey League, I mean, he doesn't take it. We're talking about trends. He never trends this way. He's always trending this way. And sooner or later, the naysayers and he's too small, he can't skate. I think he's the real deal. I think he is the consensus and will be the number 1 draft pick for sure in the draft this summer.
Yeah. Will the Wild trade up for the number 1 draft pick? Is that a possibility?
Well,
could we do it? Get him on a
blockbuster trade and robbing Peter to pay Paul. If that's 3 players and draft picks, I mean it's going to take a hell of a lot.
So it's probably highly unlikely. It's a zero, non-zero.
Yeah.
It's like trying to trade for Gobert.
The good
takes everything.
The good news is they don't have any.
that.
They don't have any Bedard-style players, but they have number 1 draft picks waiting in the wings, like a Marco Rossi, who's literally lighting it up in Iowa right now with Des Moines and the Baby Wild, and like, so my sources down there are saying, I go, what's the difference? I mean, last year he tore it up. He gets to the National Hockey League at the beginning of this season, kind of loses his identity, kind of loses his mojo. Goes back to the American Hockey League, and everyone down there with that Wild organization tells me he's got it up here now that he can do it all. And he's doing it all, not just in scoring where he's just on a torrid scoring pace. He's also back-checking, he's killing penalties, he's scoring goals on power plays, he's scoring even strength goals. And this is where you're going to see probably in February, they're going to for sure Minnesota will give him a look again, especially if, the Connor Dewars and the Ryan Hartmans and the world. And let's face it, a hot trade rumor has been all season long Matt Dumba. He is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Does he become a rental player down the stretch like Michael Russo from The Athletic thinks, or is there a rental player in the wings here? Is there a Bo Horvat coming in here to play center and solidify a centerman position on the top line? Yay, nay, maybe. I still think you could see the name that's appearing now, and that's Jordan Greenway in the fact that I think he has 2 or 3, 4 goals and less than a dozen assists, and he was a 40, 50-point guy last year. And that's not going to cut it. So you get a guy like Rossi, maybe reunite him with Boldy. You get, you get a guy like Sammy Walker. Sammy Walker's cups of coffee with Minnesota this year have been impressive. He's a points guy. The Wild need points. The Wild need forwards who can score 5-on-5. Yep. And that's where you could see some interchangeable parts coming up from the baby Wild in Des Moines.
And you mentioned Bo
Horvat.
Horvat, yep. Would he actually center the top line, do you think, or would they put him on Boldy's line? Because Boldy definitely,
Well, we'll have to ask Freddie Gaudreau, or we'll have to ask Sammy Steele how good they can be here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And Billy Guerin will have to pull that trigger. I think March 1st probably is going to be kind of a telling time. It is across the National Hockey League when it comes to rental players. But I think the Wild, Bill Guerin and the coaching staff would probably worry about where he fits if he gets here, and if he. I mean. There's going to be 20 other teams that are just like the Wild right now going like, we need a center, we need a rental player, we need a guy who can solidify a first line or a second line. I think it's interchangeable. And you know what? Who's to say they keep the first line? We'll see what the next month brings here.
And I've been happy with all the moves Billy G has made so far. Yeah. I mean, we questioned the Ryan Reeves trade for a minute there. Yeah. But
not
you know
long,
what?
Though, did
not
we?
long. I know.
Did you question that?
No.
Have you enjoyed
I love
Ryan
fighting.
Nice. Yeah, he's been a heck of a guy to
Yeah.
have on the team. And Fleury, obviously, having him on the team as a leader, I think has been good for Gustafsson.
Yeah.
So is there...
He has hand and egg. Billy G has hand and egg very, very, very well. Now his work has really cut out for him to see where they're going to land in the next 30 days, for sure.
Yeah. Right. It seems like that's always the story.
Yeah.
Right. We're really going to kind of get to see what this team is made of in the next month or so and figure out if we need that shot in the arm, if we, push all the chips in the middle and go all in.
And you start standing watching too, right? Like, and the big thing, and I've heard it so many times, the old Wild teams were always looking behind them and who was going to catch them and knock them out. I think Dean Evison and this coaching staff, from all my sources, are going like, who's in front of us? Who can we pass? Who can we leapfrog? You know what? Don't worry about who's back here. Worry about who's up there and how we can get there. And the next 30 days will tell.
Yeah. And what teams are there that we should be able to leapfrog? Is the Avalanche one of them, or are they...
Well, you better keep pace to them. I mean, the way they're trending, you better go with them and not watch them and then try to catch them. Yeah. There's the Winnipeg Jets. There's the Nashville Predators. Those are the teams that are going to, I think, land.
I think they're passable. I think we can catch up.
Well,
they don't feel like teams that are
no question
as stars as like last year's Avalanche. Like it didn't feel like we were ever going to catch them. But I think this year we have a shot. I think.
Well, you're already talking like Dean wants everybody to think. Who's ahead of us?
Yeah.
Let's not like panic because we got here. Another interesting development since we've last gotten together in Hot Dish here was the signing of Matt Boldy.
Yeah.
It's a 7-year, $49 million contract.
49 sheets, as Reed said. I screamed that at practice.
We need to get him on here.
Million.
We need to get him on here. But my point with Matt is, I think from what I heard that he was a little bit concerned about how that was going to play out. Good on the coach on the hockey ops staff and Craig Leopold to say, let's get him in the fold. Then we know he's there. Then we know what we got to deal with. Now they're looking at about $7.5 million of cap space to either ride out Dumba or make a move for a Horvat type forward, or make a trade with the Greenway or stuff like this. And Alex, I always tell Cole, I hate talking about livelihoods and uprooting people, but sometimes trades are really good for all, right? Maybe Jordan Greenway, who's got some other issues with some character problems, I'm hearing, that he may not be the most dedicated teammate and he just might be off his game. Maybe there's a better place and a better fit for him somewhere, and something that can behoove the Minnesota Wild at the same time.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is change of scenery and you get a whole new player And yeah, obviously it's not fun talking about people's livelihoods and whatnot, but it's part of the game, and it's a business at the end of the day.
And to your point, the player or players or draft picks that Minnesota would get in a potential trade of any sorts, that's a new start for them too. And all of a sudden you get a player, you go like, oh, they should have got more, but it's a player who's got a better environment to flourish in, conversely, in two ways.
For sure, yeah. And don't get me wrong, we love Dumba, we love Greenway.
Oh.
We've talked with them, we've golfed with
Heart
them.
and soul guys.
They work with a lot of nonprofits that we work with. They're wonderful people.
Terrific.
But when we're just talking hockey and we're talking you got a salary cap, if there was no salary cap, I'd say, hey, pay them all. Like the Twins, pay everybody. I don't care.
Yeah,
bring them all
Lord.
in. Yeah. But we don't have that situation. Speaking of golfing, actually, too, we went golfing with a prospect with the Iowa Wild.
Yes.
Let's talk about him for a little bit. Jesper Wallstedt. When do you think we could see him? Obviously, Gustafson's been really good lately. Fleury is Fleury. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And he is only 19.
you're going to see Volstead at some point this season in St. Paul
Really?
at the XL Energy Center. It'll be for a cup of coffee. It'll be like bringing a new car into a showroom floor and letting Wild fans kind of kick the tires a little bit. I'm convinced of that. He just made the American Hockey League All-Star team. He is the leading statistical goalie in the last 30 to 45 days. Didn't get off to a great start, finding his way. You know, between the last time we talked to him, he turned 20 years of age. I mean, how old are you?
Scored a
21.
goal.
Alex is 21. Okay, so now we're talking. Yeah, and that was
Alex,
the thing.
you've missed your chance to play with the Wild.
That was the.
Maybe next year.
That was,
yeah.
I heard Volstead the other day say that his dad called him 3 weeks ago and I said, "Will you make the AHL All-Star team?" And he says, "No, Dad." He goes, I haven't had that good a start. I scored a goal though, Dad.
On his birthday, too. On his 20th birthday.
On his 20th birthday, but he is the future, no question. I mean, he's the highest Swedish drafted goaltender now in NHL history. He's the first goalie the Wild have ever taken, ever, in a first round. He is the future, and I am telling you, I've seen him play 24 times this year in person. He is something else. Just like on the golf course, he's just like, got this. Got this. I'm not an excitable guy. I'm from Sweden. I'm from Västerås, Sweden, and we're good, Cole. We're good.
Yeah.
Alex. Remember?
He
on the golf
seemed
course.
older than us.
We're going like,
I'm
excuse
almost
me?
30 and he's talking to me. He's not even 20, and I'm like, he seems way more mature than I am.
Excuse me? Well, they say he's 20 going on 30.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No,
But that 10 years is prime time for Bill Guerin and the Wild.
Yeah, which you grow up fast when you're living away from home and you're traveling, and he's been in a full-time job a lot longer than a lot of 19-year-olds, even if it is just hockey. It's a lot of work. So.
I feel pretty strongly you'll see him before this season ends in St. Paul for a night or two in between the pipes. And it'll come at a time where the Wild are either pretty comfortable in a playoff spot or they're turning the page and letting go. And that's where you're going to see the Beckmans, the Rossies, the Sammy Walkers, and the Jesper Wallstedts. But if they are in the hunt and there's some fourth and third line players, forwards that aren't producing, I still think you could see Rossi here on a longer stretch. I think you could see Sammy Walker up here on your stretch. I mean, we know these cast of characters. There's hope there, but there's either widespread blanket coverage we're looking to next year, or there's 2 or 3 that can come in while you're salvaging a playoff run.
Yeah.
Kind of coming up on a fork in the road here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know my favorite part?
21, that's pretty good observation for 21.
Yeah, not bad. 21 going on 22. And my favorite part about filming with Jesper Wallstedt was how much his golf game was great, but man, did he love flying the drone.
Oh my gosh. Hey.
We could have taken him out flying drone for 3 hours.
We can
and
show
he would
that,
have
right? I
helped
mean, what we're talking about. Hey, I mean, we're bombing him with questions, and he's looking at Cole and Josh from our crew, and he's going like, "Hey boys," and they're like that. Next thing you know, he's like,
He almost crashed it too at one point.
"This is so cool."
Yeah, he was good at it, but right away he was like,
And Josh and Cole are over there going like,
Oh God, yep. You're doing great.
Yeah, it was super fun.
But what a great chap,
Jesper,
though.
you can fly the drone any day you want. You hit me up all the time.
What a great chap, and the Minnesota's gonna love this kid. We got the sneak peek, and when you're on a golf course with him, you can talk about anything and everything, and you follow him around. We were at practice with him. These guys were in the room with him down in Des Moines, and he's not going to be the movie that you heard too much about that you're disappointed in watching.
Yeah,
we know that his pedigree is unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's great to see that they signed Fleury. You're going to have that veteran presence, that Hall of Fame goaltender that he's going to get to play with.
Yeah.
And that's going to just make a world of difference. It does no matter what sport you're in.
Yeah.
But just to kind of wrap it up, looking at the future of the Wild, obviously Jesper and Rossi, and now they signed Boldy, another 7-7, and we know Kaprizov is part of the future.
Yeah.
There's no rebuild coming up. It feels like we are in win now mode for probably close to all 7 of the 7 Boldy years at least, and then who knows after that. It depends what prospects come up and stuff, but do you have a lot of high hopes, and do you feel also that we're in win now mode for the next, let's say, 5 years?
I do, and there will be some casualties when you look at like who needs to be signed next year. There's a handful of players. I mean, Kalen Addison, a stalwart defenseman who came up now and is playing great hockey. There's 3 or 4 or 5 more of him that are going to need some tending to in terms of dollars and cents. So what does that look like for Sammy Steele? What does that look like for Freddie Gaudreau? Is there a goaltender if you got 2 of the best goaltenders in the league right now, has Gustafsson become trade bait for something else to free up some space? But no, they're not. They don't have any hefty bags out here for 5 years, taking out the trash. This is part of a grand plan. I mean, and so far, and it's what I think it's going to be what Billy Guerin can manage in the present, much, much more than what he can manage in the future.
Well, I'm excited about it. You guys seem excited about it. They're in win now mode. Feels like the Vikings are basically win now mode. The Twins are.
Yeah.
But the Wolves are doing everything they can to be in win now mode. I think we'll bring Josh back. We'll chat about the Wolves for a little bit. Unless you have any other thoughts you want to add on the Wild to wrap up.
No, I mean, let's go Wild. Let's keep some faith here that they're the sustainable, consistent team that Dean Evison and that coaching staff has turned them into, and not a big, long, losing skid streak pretender, which has been some of the cases in the past. As far as the Vikes and the Wild and the Twins go, I think Josh would be about ready to go, because my mom told me if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Timberwolves.
Yes.
Can we know?
We'll transition over to the T-Wolves. I guess, their offseason they made trades. They got, Rudy Gobert from the Jazz. They're sitting, around like a 500 team right now. Is this what you guys expected out of the season?
No, I think they are severely underperforming everyone's expectations. After you go make a move for an all-star like Gobert, sell your whole farm, you should be a top 5 team minimum in your conference. And I mean, that's just not where we are. It's severely underperformed. I know there has been some injuries, but if you're selling the farm for a player, you got to be winning. And that's just not happening right now. And it's really disappointing to see.
Yeah, I mean, they even traded away draft picks that are like 7th graders right now. They traded so far in advance. So
there was a 2029 draft pick that was sent in that.
That's insane. I mean, that's just so crazy. First rounder, too.
Yeah.
They traded the first round pick from every other year, plus like 4 or 5 of our starters. I mean, that's a huge move. And then the Jazz came to town and beat us. So how does that make you feel? I don't know. Not great.
No.
They're not living up to expectations. But I don't want to be a hypocrite either, because when they traded for Gobert, not looking at what they sent away, you're like, I love it. They're going out there, they're trying to be a team that's in win now mode. Like, that's what you want to see as a fan, right? But we have Karl Anthony Towns. We didn't need Rudy Gobert. There's not a reason to have 2 bigs out there. It doesn't make as much sense. Like, I don't know. The more I looked at the trade, I didn't understand. And now even with Towns out, Gobert has been like, he's been okay, but he hasn't lived up to the expectations of what the trade was. That's the problem.
Right. And, Gobert being a very defensive-minded, back-to-the-basket kind of center, it's just not what today's day and age is. It's all about the three-pointer and the run-and-gun offense, and he just he doesn't fit the mold very well, and it's just really frustrating as a fan to watch a team with all these all-star caliber players just not be able to win games.
Yeah, and when you got a guy like Ant too, and Anthony Edwards, he's trying to put the team on his back. He's so young though. He's got the leadership skills, but he's going to take it to another level. He's only like 22, I think. Still, it's just crazy. He's barely older than Alex, and he's like carrying the team. Every time we win, or every game we win or lose, I'm like, oh yeah, another 30 points. Another 30 points. Doesn't matter. He's hitting 30 points. He's doing what he can. But Gobert has just been the biggest issue. I don't know. It all kind of comes back to that. I was at the Phoenix Suns game recently, a couple of months ago, or it was about a month ago probably, and dude, at one point, Gobert was actually pushed by, I'm forgetting exactly who pushed him, but Gobert was kind of being lazy. And the guy came up behind him and pushed him to get him into his position. And you're like, that cannot happen. I don't care what sport it is. One, you shouldn't be pushing a guy like Gobert. But two, Gobert was just he wasn't getting the calls that he wanted. He wanted fouls called on him or on the guys that were touching him, things like that. So he's just like, oh, what the heck? And he's kind of throwing his arms up and forgetting about playing the game. And that's what's kind of been happening. I feel like there's a lot of things that haven't gone their way, and the ball just bounces the wrong way, and they get frustrated, they get down on themselves, and all of a sudden they go the other direction. And we saw it during playoffs last year. Things didn't go their way for a moment, they lost 20-point lead. Things start to go their way, they gain it all the way back. Things didn't go their way, 20-point lead again, gone. And you're like, how does this happen to the Timberwolves every year?
Yeah, but somebody like Gobert, or whatever, he's proven himself as like a great, player and stuff. Like obviously this is just like a rut he'll come out of. So what do they need to do to, like, ultimately he'll end up being a good player for the Wolves. So like, what do they need to do, I guess, right now to like turn the season around?
I mean, I think it's kind of like what we talked about with the Vikings. It's a lot of how are you going to run the scheme. If you have Karl Anthony Towns and you have Rudy Gobert, you have to not play the game you are used to always playing. That's a different ball game.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think we have all the pieces. I don't think that's in question, but it's just about, putting those pieces in the right spots and using them correctly, kind of like what Cole was saying.
That's it. That's what they got to do. And hey, we got A-Rod here, bringing baseball into the Twins. I mean, bringing baseball into the Timberwolves. Maybe they'll go keep spending some money. That's what A-Rod's all about.
Hopefully.
That's what he's claims. And he lives here now. He's shoveling. It's good to see. I don't know.
Make a man out of him.
Slowly want to be an A-Rod fan.
I can't do it.
But the only way he's going to get me is by getting a championship with the Wolves. If he wins a championship, all the Yankee stuff, all the lying is in the past for me. I'm bought in. I'm in. This is his chance.
Maybe an asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
There's an asterisk.
I was actually at a Twins game.
He can make me happy.
Against the Yankees here at Target Field. This is a long time ago, but he hit 3 home runs in that game. It's my last.
I saw he tweeted that. He tweeted that video out actually recently and said, "Sorry, Minnesota."
The
video of the 3 home run game.
I was at that game.
At least he apologized.
Yeah. So.
Well, hopefully the Timberwolves' future is brighter with some new ownership and Rudy Gobert just figuring his things out, and Karl Anthony Towns being healthy makes a big difference, and just Ant becoming more and more of a leader. I think he's going to be here a long time, and who knows what happens with D'Lo, but I don't know. We got a good team on our hands.
We do.
They should be a lot better than they are.
It doesn't feel like a team in rebuild mode. It feels like we just need a little bit of reloading, I think.
Yep. And this backup options on the team, too. All the backups are like outscoring and out-defending the starters right now. But, I mean, that's also because they're kind of playing against some of the backups when they're out there. But they've been playing really well. So it's good to see. I like it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add about the Timberwolves before we move on to what everyone's waiting for, the Twins?
The last thing I just want to say is, like, yes, you have a 500 team right now, but I don't think they're going to go this way. I think the only way is to either stay plateauing at a 500 team or trend upward. I don't think they're going anywhere below what they are now, so that's a positive outcome that is going to happen in the end of the season for me.
Well said. I agree.
All right, so Twins. All right, what do we got here? Okay, we already talked about the Luis Ariz trade. So we got Pablo Lopez in return. What does the Twins' starting rotation look like then this season?
Well, there's a lot of debate whether we won or lost the Luis Ariz-Pablo Lopez trade. It's obviously still yet to be written, but like people don't realize Pablo Lopez is only 90 days older than Joe Ryan. And you look at Joe Ryan, you're like, oh my God, we got this young star, this stud. Like, I love him. It's
and you
awesome.
said the more you thought about it, the Pablo Lopez trade was growing on you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially the prospects that we got. The shortstop prospect. He now ranks in as our, what's his name? I don't know. We'll have to look it up. I forget right off the top of my head. I know it, but he ranks now as like our number 4, number 5 prospect in our system, and he's only 19 years old. He's growing on me. The more Fangraphs came out with a video of him on YouTube that I watched, and he's got some skills, man. He's only trending upward, just like the Wolves. I mean, he is good. So getting him in that trade was incredible. If it was a 1-for-1 trade, it'd be harder for it to grow on me. But I do like me some Pablo Lopez, so we'll see. It's good to see the Twins trade for pitching.
Okay, more recently, or did you want to talk about Pablo Lopez?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of mentioned the possible pitching rotation.
Yeah.
Who's your ace? Who's your opening day starter?
To me, it's probably still Sonny Gray. I think. I mean, he had a really good year. He's a veteran. He's been around. He's a good pitcher. He did it. He does what you need him to do. I mean, I'd like to see maybe Joe Ryan, but I don't think it's going to be Pablo Lopez. I just don't think. There's no reason to have him be your opening day starter. I think you make it either Sonny Gray or Joe Ryan.
I mean, it's probably going to depend on, preseason too. So.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. It can make a difference.
Let's switch up the question a bit. Let's say first playoff game. Who's your guy?
That feels like. I mean, it's gonna. Of course, like you just said, it's all gonna depend on the season. But if you said right now, like first playoff game, I think you got to go Pablo Lopez, unless Tyler Mahle has an amazing season.
Right.
He could sit there too, but I don't feel like that'll be necessarily a Sonny Gray game. Because when you get into playoffs, you need guys to pitch in those first couple games and not bring your bullpen in too soon. Mm-hmm. And Sonny Gray is a bullpen guy. He's a guy he's not going to give you 7, 8, 9 innings. He's going to give you a solid 4, 5, 6 type innings. And going into a game 1 of the playoffs, I would go and lean towards someone who's not going to need as much bullpen help potentially. But that's what I like about getting Pablo. He is a 7, 8 inning type pitcher. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really have that last year, it felt like. Everybody was pitching 3, 4, 5 innings, and every game you're like, man, why even have starting pitchers on the team?
Just have a full bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks like some of what they're doing with the starting pitching. We have so many guys.
Mm-hmm. And you got like 7 possible starters.
Yeah. You got Bailey Ober's even amazing. No one talks about him. You got Kenton Maeda back. You got Tyler Mahle. I always say Molly, but
I was literally going to say we need to do like a cut of all the times you mispronounce his name.
Ever since he's been in the pros, I have only called him Tyler Mahle. And I don't know why. I think that's from another podcast that I listened to at some point or something called him that. So I blame all the podcasters out there. It's what I'm doing.
It's
definitely Mahle, because I heard Falvey the other day talking about it.
Google, we'll make a note. Google how to pronounce his name.
It's Mahle. Okay. I was wrong. It is not Molly. But either way, you got Maeda, Ober, Ryan, Lopez, Mahle, who am I missing? Sonny Gray, like...
Did you say Varland?
Varland too. I mean, you just have so many starters. Like, could we see like an 8-man rotation? And some of these guys are going to be pitching. Probably Varland and Ober will be pitching over in St. Paul and be using them as needed, as guys need breaks, guys need an extra week off. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of the St. Paul Saints making a big impact on the Twins this season, more than ever.
Do you see a Simon Woods Richardson making his way up to majors this year?
Oh, he'll be in the majors for sure, I think. Yeah. Whether he ends up getting traded by the end of this offseason wouldn't shock me. I think he could be somebody that a lot of people have their eyes on. He also could be a bullpen guy for us too, that could go some extended innings, maybe a Sonny Gray combo, where Sonny Gray can go out, throw 4 or 5 innings solid, bring in SWR and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. More recently, the Michael Taylor trade, center field.
Yes.
So what is that? I mean, talk about that trade, but then also, like, how does that affect Buxton's usage?
Yeah.
Either one of you.
I think it's a great trade. I think adding in one of the top defenders in the league to your outfield is always a positive thing. Yeah. I think it opens up a lot of flexibility with Buxton, allowing him to, play the DH. We don't have to, use him in center field every day because we, have a nice defensive replacement for him, kind of preserve some of his health, which has been quite a question mark the past couple years for him. And yeah, I think it just opens up a lot of new possibilities for our lineup and lineup flexibility. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, lineup flexibility exactly is hitting it on the head. But just having, I don't really know what's going on with Celestino because he ranks pretty similar to everything that Michael Taylor is. He is a great outfielder. I mean, you watch him when Buxton was hurt last year. Celestino was amazing. I don't know. It kind of surprised me when they made the trade, and it only adds $4.5 million to the budget, but it's gonna be for sure good just to not anything we can do to not let Buxton get hurt is a good thing for the Twins. Yeah. So if you got a game and you're up 5-6 runs, hey, pull Buxton, get him out of there. You're up by enough. Hopefully you're playing the Detroit Tigers or something. Let's put Michael Taylor out there and let him run around. Let him throw his body on the line. Not that you want him to get hurt, but we don't need Buxton getting hurt. A healthy Buxton is a championship team for the Twins, I think.
So with the updated moves, are you feeling better about the offseason now?
Oh, for sure. Just even the fact that Buxton could be healthy longer is a huge move. And so that makes me want to grade the Twins a lot higher than what I've done in the past. I mean, getting Correa, getting Christian Vasquez, Pablo Lopez. Yes, they got rid of Arise, but he just didn't fit in defensively the more you realize it. But I don't know. They feel like one of the teams this offseason that have made some of the best moves without going out and doing like what the Mets did or the Padres did.
Without they just spent $200 million.
Yeah, other than Correa. But we had to do that.
No, that was...
But we got Correa for a bargain.
Yeah, we got a great deal
for sure. And we could have him. He could be a Twin by the end of his career for 11 total years. Could you ever imagine, like, one day I was like, hey, Correa could be a Twin for 11 years.
Yeah.
1 year last year, and this year, this is a 10-year contract, kind of in a way. 6 years guaranteed, but it's crazy.
So, I know this is tricky, with Minnesota sports, but what are your expectations for this season then so far?
I think kind of with what Cole's saying, we didn't make splash moves, but we made sneaky good moves. And I think we are so close to winning our division. I don't think it's a very competitive division in the first place that I see no reason we can't jump the Guardians this year and take the division. And as for playoffs, well, that's where the Minnesota sports fan in me comes out. I don't have high hopes, but again, all it takes is getting in. Get hot at the right time, make a run. But I'm not going to place any sports bets on the Twins winning the World Series. We'll say that.
Yeah, I wish I could say that they would, but when you've lost 18 games in a row as a franchise, it sadly feels like if they get to playoffs, their goal will be to win a game, and that's not what you want to see. I mean, I think they'll go and be like, one game at a time, win a series. Sure, they're all pros. Not all of them were a part of those 18 losses. Nor was the actual ownership, not the ownership they were, but the actual, the GM, Falvey, everybody. But I don't know. Playoffs are going to be tough. But expectations on the season, the Guardians do worry me, but they just got hot at the right time, too. Mm-hmm. And they took advantage of freaking Emilio Pagan. I hate that guy so much, I'm telling you. I can't believe the Twins re-signed him this offseason. I felt like he blew the season for us because every game we play the Guardians, he was giving up runs at the end of the game that would cost us the game. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I think if that didn't happen last year, the Twins are going to win the division, and who knows what happens in playoffs. Yeah. We were in first place for over 100 games, and I think that's my expectation going into this year. I wouldn't be shocked to see them have a little bit of a slower start. You have a very different rotation. You have a very different offense out there. You don't have Luis Ariz in the lineup. They may get off to a slow start, but I think by the end of the season, I expect them to win the division. We have like the weakest division to try to win too. And the White Sox, who I think, if you asked me a year or two ago, they would be in win now mode right now, but they're not because of all these different things that keep popping up. And now Clevenger, I don't know if you've seen the news too about Michael Clevenger this offseason's in some trouble, kind of a Trevor Bauer situation, some domestic violence stuff. So that's a big loss. And I don't think the White Sox are going to be as competitive as everyone expected to be in 2023. So it's good for the Twins.
Feels like this offseason so far, we've gotten better and the rest of our division has just kind of stayed at the same level.
And a hot take too, if you tell me that Joey Gallo hits 250 and leads the league in home runs, I think we can win the World Series. I think Joey Gallo could make a big difference on this team because if you bring in a power hitter like that, it takes the pressure off of Correa and Buxton to have to be that guy. And now those guys are your guys who are hitting doubles, triples, moving guys around the bases. They can still hit for pop. They're still going to get home runs, but you're not expecting them to have to hit 320 with 30 home runs. They can hit 310 or 280 with 20 home runs, and Gallo can come in and be better than he's ever been.
Without the shift this year,
Yeah,
I think
right.
that totally opens up his offensive game, and he's a lefty, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of shorter, it's a taller wall, but it's a little closer. I think he could really take advantage of that this year.
Yeah. Guessing that he's a lefty is like a pretty good guess because like every Twins outfielder is a lefty. It's ridiculous. Right. We have so many. I think we talked about maybe some trades they can make. I still think they get rid of a lefty. I thought it would be Max Kepler. After the Luis Ariz trade, I was a little less sure about that, but it wouldn't shock me to see Kepler go still. But Kepler's another guy like Gallo, I think, without the shift, he could have a completely different type of season. So, and he's one of the most clutch Twins players that I can remember in the past 10 years, even though he had a bad year last year. Everybody's kind of hating on his salary's kind of high, but Kepler's good. He's a very good player. So if he's in this lineup, I'm not upset about it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add about the Twins?
Well, Joe Mauer is up for Hall of Fame next year. We got to talk about that. I mean, do you think Joe Mauer can get in the Hall of Fame next year, in his first year?
I don't see why not. Wasn't he like one of the first catchers to win a batting title?
Yeah, an MVP.
Yeah. An MVP. Like he just did so much, and sure he doesn't have the winning accolades, but I feel like his stats and personal accolades should be able to get him in there.
Yeah.
And I personally would just love to see him. Growing up as a baseball player, as a catcher in Minnesota, I mean, he was my idol, so definitely would love to see Mauer get his recognition.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt that it happens the first year. I think Mauer's amazing, but I think it's very hard to get in your first year on the ballot. I think it's going to be closer to 2026 before we actually see, and I think you can stay on the ballot for, it's like
10?
Yeah, 5 to 10 years. I don't know if you could look that up, but I think it takes 3 or 4 years before he actually gets in. But he's just so high ranked in all the catchers, and if he never got a concussion and continued to catch his whole career, first year entry, no doubt, he's in it, for sure. But I don't know. He's one of those guys where you got to see him go through the farm system. He was drafted by the Twins. He was born and raised in Minnesota. He's a guy from Minnesota that it feels like he needs to be on a pedestal, and he should be there. I want to, and when he is, I would love to go there one day and see, his plaque up on the wall for sure. Take a picture by that. And who knows? Twins have a lot of guys in the farm system that could be the next Joe Mauer, the next guy that comes through, works his way up the ranks. They got guys like Brooks Lee that we just drafted this year, Royce Lewis. There's a lot of prospects that we're going to see. We've talked about the Wild prospects a lot with Gis, but Twins really have a pretty good farm system, shockingly good for how good their actual team is too. So wouldn't be surprised that by mid-season, close to the trade deadline, there's a lot of guys in this lineup that we're not talking about right now, like that we don't anticipate are in the lineup. And who knows what happens with first base. Killaroff is probably our first baseman if you said right now, but who knows? Maybe eventually Killaroff gets traded or moved back to the outfield if Kepler gets traded. You bring Miranda over to first base could happen. Maybe something changes with Polanco and you bring Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee. I mean, imagine an infield with Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, and Correa. Yeah. That is the best infield in baseball.
Well, and I feel like the first base problem, it's a good problem to have because it's one of the easiest defensive positions in the infield. You can pretty much teach anyone to play first base if you really need to. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to get another good bat into our lineup and making things work through that. I think that'll be easy.
Yep. And Miranda, you got to find a spot for him. I mean, he's great at third, don't get me wrong. But he's here for the long term. He's not going anywhere. He kind of reminds me of a young Albert Pujols. Like he's got some pop. He's ready. He's going to be a big deal, I think. Yeah. I think everyone's going to have Jose Miranda shirts in the next 3 years. That's my opinion.
You can get behind that one.
Yeah. Plus, him and Correa are buddies. And Nick Gordon. We didn't talk about Nick Gordon, Matt Wallner. Dude, there's so many outfielders, so many lefty outfielders. I just don't even know what the Twins are going to do.
No, there's a lot of positive thoughts about the Twins' future, I feel like we've built something really special in our farm system, and in the next couple of years, we're going to finally start to see it pay off. And we're in win now, buy now mode, so there's no better time.
Yeah. It feels like Minnesota sports fans always obviously rank the Vikings number one. They like the Wild the next most. They think they have the next opportunity to win. And then the Wolves and the Twins are always just sitting down here because they lose so many times in the playoffs or they don't compete or whatever. But this feels like, whether it's this year or in the next 6 years, when we have Correa and Buxton for 6 more years, it's their opportunity. The door's wide open.
Time is now.
Yeah, and such a terrible division, the time has to be now too, because the division's not going to be bad forever.
Right.
Cleveland's got some really young, talented
Detroit's
prospects.
looking on the up too, with Turnbull and
Spencer Turnbull.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely the door has never been more open for us.
Yeah, this is the time, Josh. The time is now for the Twins. Hopefully,
Maybe.
might take 1 more year.
Or 2.
Yeah, we got to get to the playoffs and win a game.
Yeah, let's just start with that. Let's make that the season goal.
Yeah.
And then we'll win another one, then another one. And we'll just go from there.
Feels like our goal with all the teams, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just get to playoffs and take it
win a game,
one game at a
Win
time.
one game, please.
it's been a tough year on Minnesota sports fans because you ride so high for so long just to get to September for the Twins or to get to 4th down and 8 for the Vikings.
I think we were expecting to do a lot more Vikings podcasts before this playoff season, but that did not work out. So.
It is what it is.
All right, well, thanks for joining the Hot Dish Roundtable. Like, subscribe, follow us at Hot Dish Sports on social media, and go Twins, Vikings, Wild, Timberwolves.
Hot Dish Sports.
Till next time.